Hello, all, and welcome back to another episode of TV and Us, a conversation show about the TV series we just can't stop talking about. My name is Jennifer Hahn.
And I'm Sarah Callan.
And each season we focus on a different show, reviewing it episode by episode, and we invite you to watch along with us. Right now, we are reviewing The Last of Us Season 1, and today we are on episode 3, titled Long, Long Time. If you haven't watched it yet, this is your spoiler. Please check it out before continuing to listen to the rest of this episode. Okay, Sarah, kick us off with an episode summary for this third episode.
When an unknown person approaches his compound, survivalist Bill forges an unlikely connection. Later, Joel and Ellie seek Bill's guidance.
Okay, so the Bill and Frank that Tess references in the previous episode, we have now met in this episode. All right, here we go with our episode titles of choice for this third episode. Sarah, what is yours?
Mine is 5 More Minutes.
Yeah. Well done. Well done. My episode title is Rabbit and Beaujolais.
Yes.
Okay. So here we go, diving in. Tell me some of your thoughts about this third episode of the season.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to do with this episode. I'm a little confused by it, kind of in the structure of the season. It's very well done. It's very heartfelt. It's very touching. All of that, yada yada. But I'm like, why are we getting this as our third episode? It feels a little early to have a little like aside where we're taken out of the world and into this like other emotional moment, you know? I'm very curious structurally why this is episode 3. And I'm just kind of curious to see, you know, once we get further into the season, how pivotal is this kind of aside going to be, and how important is Bill's letter to Joel kind of going to affect him going forward? Because I don't know, this episode is quite long. It's over an hour long, and most of that hour is spent not with Joel and Ellie. And so I'm left kind of perplexed and just wondering why this is in this place in the season, and how this episode could then become maybe a building block for something else, or is going to it's planted the seeds for something else further in the season that I can't see right now. So I'm just curious at this point in time.
Curiosity's good. This third episode point of the season. Yeah, this episode reminds me a lot of those flashback, character-focused episodes that we got in The Bear. Specifically, I think it was like The Bear season 3 or season 2, where we get like a whole Marcus episode, a whole Sydney episode, a flashback episode. And those made a lot of sense because we were already deeply invested in those characters in their present time. And so getting to go on this whole flashback journey with them felt really meaningful to like understand who these characters were. But the difference is that, you know, Bill and Frank are totally net new characters to us. And because they both pass in this episode, they are not going along this overarching journey that we're going on with our two protagonists. So you're right. It is such a bold and unique choice to have this be the third episode of the season, especially because like for the majority of the episode, it's all in flashback. You know, I was thinking that perhaps if one of them survives, then perhaps they join along on the journey, and like that serves as being kind of this emotional backstory for that character that we're continuing to follow. But both of them are not continuing on this journey with Joel and Ellie. And so it made me think about, I'm curious to see if this shakes out in the rest of the season, but this episode almost serves as this like larger support for this thesis around like, what is it that drives us as humans, and like, what is our purpose? You know, like there's in this apocalyptic environment, what are people living for? And like, what is the point of survival? You know, and I think that is going to be potentially a fascinating theme that maybe we see Joel continue to reckon with as he grows over the course of the season. I think they're definitely planting all of those seeds with the, like you mentioned, the letter that Bill writes to him around your purpose is to be a protector and to fight for those that are around you that have been placed in your care. And this almost felt like a big supporting paragraph for that larger thesis. And it's fascinating for the show to make some of those choices and not take the traditional like events focused trajectory for our two protagonists that we're following. But there's kind of these like larger meditations about what it means to be human and what it means to live and what we live for as human beings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. The other thing that I was kind of thinking about is that sometimes after kind of an intense moment in a show, then we need the next episode to kind of breathe and just, you know, kind of like catch our bearings. And in the episode and at the end of episode 2, we do have a very dramatic emotional moment with Tess dying, and we know that that's very emotional for Joel, but it's only the end of the second episode. We spent, I don't know, max an hour and a half with Tess. So even though she was my favorite, I don't have a strong emotional connection to her. I'm not particularly devastated at her death because I always knew that she was going to die. That was the only purpose for Tess in this show, is to get these two together, and then she gets to go away and they can continue on their journey. So as a viewer, even though this dramatic big emotional death just happened, I'm not really affected by it. I don't need a break. I in fact want to see my protagonists move forward and like keep going on the mission that Tess died trying to get them to accomplish. So it feels really out of place for me this episode, and I was looking forward to more action and more forward momentum, and it's just interesting that in episode 3 we go backwards, it feels like, and we go back in time. And so I'm sure it'll make sense once I have the full picture, but I'm just like, wow, that was not what I needed right now as a viewer. So I don't know, we'll see what happens next.
You're looking for some forward momentum, fighting off some infected beings, and traversing on this long journey. Speaking of long time, long journey to Wyoming, so that there's this larger goal that we get to see our characters progress towards. It's so funny because reviewing The Bear, speaking of The Bear season 3, reviewing The Bear season 3, that was also an overarching question that I remember you had too, of like,
Mm-hmm.
what is our
Yep.
goal and are we making progress towards this for our people that we're invested in this larger mission that we're invested in?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And with The Bear season 3, I started having those questions around episode 4, because the first
Mm-hmm.
3 episodes of The Bear season 3 made sense to me. And then
Mm-hmm.
it's episodes 4 and 5 that I went, this is not great.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. We'll see where The Last of Us goes. I mean, they obviously get back on their journey. So and that is what I appreciate about episode 3. Even though we spend, I don't know, probably an hour in the flashback, it is bookended by Joel and Ellie making progress. And so we do see that they are moving forward and they are working toward their goal. And there's some interesting character things that are happening between them in those few minutes that we have of them. So it's not, I don't feel like this was like a waste of an episode. For me, it was probably too long because I was like, what are we doing? Even though it was really good, I was still like, why are we spending so much time with these characters that we'll never see again? So I will probably eat my words by the end of the season. But yeah, this episode just it feels weird to me to be at this point in the story. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, you'd think that this episode might be like closer to that halfway point, you know, and we've got some great action, we've made some good progress, and you're right, like we're ready and waiting for and asking for a breathing moment to have something that's really deeply emotional in this way. And then we're back in the action for the rest of the season. It definitely comes quite early because there's so much momentum, especially after episode 2, where Tess has like sent them on their journey, and you're like, okay, let's do this thing. And then we do a whole flashback. I do think it's really fascinating how I think one of my questions from the end of episode 2 in the looking ahead section was like, who will we meet along the way in the open city and all of the different non-infected people and how they're surviving and whatnot. And it's fascinating to me that like one of the first people we get to see living here out in the open city is this incredibly sweet couple that has shared a life of love. And that's just different than I was expecting. I thought we were going to meet some like really nasty, vile, evil beings out there that are like corrupting people and taking advantage of people and that like nastier side of humanity being displayed. And this is an oddly like beautiful way to showcase how people have survived out in the landscape of the vast, vast Wild West that is the open city. And I kind of love that the show's like really wearing its heart on its sleeve and has given us this like really beautifully hopeful episode about human nature.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's also interesting, kind of in contrast to what we've seen of the show so far. In the QZ, and we talked about it, I think, in the last episode, it really does feel like every man for himself, and everyone is just kind of isolated and alone. And I mean, obviously the Fireflies are working together, but just the regular people, it just seems to be isolation, and you're just trying to get by. And then in this episode, we see Bill and Frank, and both of them were looking for belonging and connection, and they were able to find each other and build something really, really beautiful and deep and profound. And they could bring their full selves to the table, which we can see that Bill hadn't been able to thus far. So it's interesting, this contrast that we had seen between these two locations, and kind of just the power of connection that so many people during this time are missing.
Yeah. And I didn't expect that from a show with a premise about like the apocalyptic environment and fighting off infected beings. You know what I mean? Like, this is such a deeply emotional story, and it feels like an indie drama, honestly, like a beautiful, sweet indie romance drama more than big action apocalyptic thriller. And that's I love the unexpectedness of that. I think that's really, really fascinating and really cool for what these creators of the show are looking to like communicate and have the viewers think about and meditate on. So unexpected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I also just I love the casting of Nick Offerman as Bill. Like,
Mm.
if I were to place bets on a celebrity that I thought could survive the apocalypse, Nick Offerman would be up there. Like, I fully believe that he could survive the apocalypse and just, I don't know, make it out alive. And casting him as Bill just totally fits because he's a total survivor dude. I could believe that he's a prepper, all of that. And then throughout the episode, you see this really tender heart that he has, and you see all the love within him, which I also believe from Nick Offerman. So it was just such a great casting decision for him, and he's great in this role. And then Murray Bartlett is also great as Frank, and just seeing those two together and the way that the chemistry and the connection that they have with one another as we're jumping through those decades is just it's really sweet to see. It was perfect casting, great execution. They did a great job.
Yeah, and they're so different from each other in their demeanor and how they show up in the world, and it's neat to see them. There's a whole dedicated scene of them like having their like married fight, around like how to use their resources, and Frank wants to use it to like make the town beautiful, and Bill is like the functional guy that's like, we're wasting resources on it. So it's neat to see them like work out those differences in how they show up in the world and the things that they value, and learning to appreciate and love those parts of each other and to compromise. I love that this isn't this one-toned, beautiful little love story, but we get the real life stuff too. And the show isn't afraid to give us all of that full picture of what a life lived together really looks like. The good, bad, and the ugly.
And I love in Frank's speech at the end, he says like something to the effect of like, I'm not gonna lie to you and say every moment with you was a dream. And I really love that he's just keeping it real, and even in this really tender, vulnerable moment, he's still keeping it 100 with Bill. And that was great to see.
Yeah, we don't want the overly rosy, overly sappy love story, you know? Once again, the show not leaning into melodrama is continuously my favorite thing so far. Okay, what are some big moments or notable parts of the episode that really stood out to you?
Yeah, we see that Joel and Ellie get a truck, and they manage to get their car battery, so they are on their way. They don't have to try and walk to Wyoming, which is probably good for everyone. So thanks, Bill, for being a real one and leaving your truck to Joel. But now they have what they need to continue on their journey, and they've showered. That's very important. It's very good. So those two have accomplished a number of things in this episode, which is nice to see.
Yeah, they're making progress. One of the things that I really love about that segment at the end there is seeing Ellie react to the car. There's so many moments
Mhm.
again and again where I forget that she has grown up literally in quarantine. And there's so much of like pre-infection life that is so normal to us, that, and so normal to Joel too, that he also forgets, as we as the viewers also forget that this is so new to her. And just to see that, like we were talking about in the previous episode, that childlike wonder and her comparing it to being in a spaceship and not knowing how to work the seatbelt. It's like, I just was surprised and shocked and delighted to see her reaction. So I love the way that the show is giving time to just indulge in those little moments.
And it's just fun to see those different sides of Ellie. And we talked about this in the last episode, but she had to grow up so young, and she is so adult so much of the time. And so I think those reminders that she is a kid are super important, especially for like us as the viewers. I feel like it might be easy to start thinking of her as an adult just because she she is so grown up. But I think those little moments of her, it's like a spaceship, that's that's really important to remind us just how young she is and just how new this whole world and this whole experience is for her. Yeah, it's just they're so fun and they're so playful, but I feel like they're also super purposeful.
Yeah, yeah. And girl gets a gun. That's one of the
Mm.
big things in my looking ahead section. It's just like that feels they spend so much time in the previous episode and in this episode with her constantly asking for one and being denied it. Obviously, makes a lot of sense. But she has one now, and it just feels like this the presence of that gun in every sequence from here on out. I am just going to be waiting for to see when that's going to be used and how, in what context, because it feels like there's so much significance to that gun secretly being hidden in her backpack. So I'm very intrigued now.
Yeah, I'm also just interested in Joel's choice not to give her a gun. I I get it. She is a child, so probably handing her a firearm, especially when you don't know her, is probably not a good idea. But if they're walking into the danger that everyone seems to think they are, it would be helpful if somebody else was also armed and it wasn't just on you. And like that could be a really good like bonding moment too of like, hey, I'm going to give you this thing and now I'm going to teach you how to use this thing so we're all safe. Because I feel like the other thing we've learned about Ellie is that she's very tenacious, and if she wants something, she's going to get it one way or another. And so probably giving her a gun and teaching her how to use it in a safe, controlled environment is probably better than just saying no over and over again. So that was the other thing that I kept thinking about, especially once they were in Bill's bunker and there's 80 trillion guns. It's like, oh, okay, let's do some target practice. Let me teach you how to use these things so that when we're in danger, you are equipped to potentially help out. I don't know. Maybe that's also, I'm not traversing the apocalypse with a 14-year-old girl. So, like, what do I know?
Well, that's something that kind of like always shocks me every time is when I like remember that she's 14, because Joel doesn't treat her like she's a 14-year-old. You know what I mean? And I don't know, maybe things are strange and funky in the way that like kids grow up in the QZ, but he treats her like she's much younger than 14 in the way that he speaks to her, in the way that he, interacts with her. So I don't know if you feel that way at all, but I sometimes remember her age and I'm like, this just the relationship and how they interact with each other just feels different from what I would expect. Like she, and I think I also feel this vacillation as a viewer as well, of sometimes feeling like she is very adult and she should be treated like she's a 14-year-old. And then sometimes she has these like really sweet, beautiful childlike moments that she seems younger to me too, And so that's a fascinating thing that will sometimes crop up in my mind when I'm watching this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's just the complexity of that character, because she is a kid, but she's in a very non-kid situation. And so she will probably sometimes revert back to those like more childish ways, probably in times of stress too. So it's going to be interesting to see her character kind of throughout, because she is a young person in a very difficult situation. So she is going to be probably a source of some unpredictability, which I think is going to be interesting to watch.
Yes, very much so. She's got a whole brain on her, and she's got conviction, and she's unafraid. She's unafraid to do what she needs to do. Her taking the gun, she's been told a million times, don't take the gun. And just learned and recited back the propaganda from Joel around the 3 rules. And she's like, well, this is what I want. And that's probably that survival instinct in her as well. I'm sure growing up in the QZ, that's been definitely trained up in her.
Yeah. And like, you got to do what you got to do to survive.
Yeah.
So,
and to like trust nobody, like she doesn't know who Joel is. She doesn't know anything about her. And he's made it very clear he doesn't care about her. He's just here in it for him getting to Tommy. She's just truly like precious cargo to him. Granted, we're seeing the relationship warm up a little bit more, but loyalties and intentions, I think, are fickle in the apocalypse.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Unless you're Bill and Frank, and then that's locked in. But everybody else, man, you're on your own.
Yeah, very true. I swear, the whole Bill and Frank story arc is like the first 10 minutes opening scene of Up. Like, it just, way to pull on every heartstring that we have. It's really beautifully done.
Get you right in your feels in the middle of the apocalypse.
Yeah. It's really great. Okay, other big things that we want to mention about this episode. Are you like so eager to get to episode 4 to see us?
I'm ready.
Continue our journey.
Yes, let's go. You got me this far. We got out of Boston. Like, come on, let's keep going west. What are we doing?
Yep.
I don't want to be in my feels in the apocalypse. I just want the apocalypse. Come on.
There's no time for feelings when there's infected beings roaming around. Come on, guys.
Come on now, guys. We got a mission. Let's go.
Yes.
Oh, man. That's one of those, like, tell me you're an Enneagram 3 without telling me you're an Enneagram 3 situations right there. That was me the entire episode. I was like, okay, this is really lovely. This is really beautiful. I'm appreciating this, but like, come on, can we keep it moving?
We got some mission, people. We gotta go save
Yeah,
Tommy. What's up with
we
Tommy?
do. Come
Yeah.
on. Ellie might have the cure in her veins. Like, what are we
Mm.
doing? It's fine.
I'm learning so much about your wiring based on your actions to The Last of Us season 1 and The Bear up season 3.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
really
I need
big.
a mission.
And
Unless
progress.
yeah.
Mission.
Yes. There are times when it's fine to just be meandering, and I'm okay with that. But that has to be the intention. You can't say, "Hey, we have a mission," and then meander in the middle. Like, no, I'm ready. We're going on the mission. And we haven't gone through enough to warrant a break yet. What are we doing?
Yeah, the mission is meandering. You're down for, but
That's fine. That's fine.
not
If the goal
meandering
is
in
meandering,
spite of
it's
the
fine.
mission. Yep.
Yes. We have to stay on task. So that's why I'm curious to see, like, in the future, like, what seeds were planted in this episode that I don't know yet because I don't have the full context that are going to really pay off in the future. Because this wasn't like, I mean, granted, we're only 3 episodes into this, but what I've seen so far of the show is that it's very intentional and very strategic, and the writing is very efficient. And so the fact that we spent an hour plus on this episode, most of which are not with characters that we will ever see again, I have to believe that that was for a strategic reason that I don't have all the context for right now.
Yep. Like what is significant about like this place, this house, this storyline, the themes that we can look back to and see that those roots were here as we finish the season and get to see it all as a whole. Yeah, that'd be fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
One of the little details that I really loved in this episode is the scene where Joel and Ellie, it's in the beginning of the episode, and they're going on their merry way, making progress on their journey. And Joel is explaining to Ellie about the spread, and she asked about kind of where its origins might have been and why it spread so quickly. And Joel's listing off all of these different like common food products that it could have been spread in. So he says like it could have been in the flour or in the bread, and he says pancake mix. And I just love that little detail that's thrown in there because it feels like such a nod back to episode 1 in the opening, in the flashback sequence of 2003, where we see that Sarah made pancakes and was asking for pancake mix to make on Joel's birthday. And the fact that Joel included that in his list of different carbs is significant for how much like that is still so deeply a part of him. But also the show trusts us as the viewers to remember and recognize some of those little details and catch them and relish in them. So I loved that little detail. It made me so happy to see. And just the intelligence of the way this is written and the trust the show has in us is just continuously really exciting to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And in that first episode, you know, Grandma was being fed, I think it was biscuits.
Yeah.
Like every time we saw her, biscuits were being shoved into her face. And then they baked cookies, and Sarah didn't eat any of them because they were oatmeal raisin instead of chocolate chip. You know, so it's all of those little details in that episode that then this third episode kind of unlocks for us. It's, again, this show is so strategic. So I'm just like, okay, there was a purpose for this meandering that we went on, as beautiful as it was. There is a purpose to it. I just
you're not even,
I don't know what it is.
What can you
I am
say?
yes.
Yeah, it's really showing.
I want to be on task.
Oh, it's so fun.
We got things to do.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have time for feelings.
Especially not for characters that don't go on the journey with us.
Right.
I really
like we see them for less than an hour and then they're gone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why are we doing this?
Yeah. I thought one of them would die, but not both of them. Because I thought they would arrive at the house and only one of them's there, you know, and then to have that whole storyline play out. Yeah. So.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. We've learned that this is one of those shows where I guess everybody dies. So that's super cool.
Well,
Because we had Sarah die in the first episode, we had Tess die in the second episode, then we have Bill and Frank die in the third episode. Everybody's dying.
yep.
So just
No
buckle
one
up,
is safe.
get ready.
No one
Yeah.
is safe from the storytelling and the infected beings
Yes.
and the storytelling.
Yes.
Except for
Yes.
Joel and Ellie, apparently. They've got some thick plot armor.
They do. They do.
Knowing that,
And hopefully they
the
have
coming season. And, yeah. So
yeah, hopefully they have enough guns between them to get through that and their plot armor. They should be fine.
yeah, exactly. They're suited up. Okay. Should we give out some TVNS awards?
Sure.
All right, let's do it. The first category is Scrappiest Survivor. What is your choice for this episode?
I want to give it to Bill for all of his traps that he set around his house.
Yeah.
Way to go, buddy.
He's were
great.
highly effective. Those
right?
kept off a whole horde of raiders. That's really impressive.
Yeah. Way to go, Bill.
My choice for this category is also Bill, but it's for his survivalist lair. Underground lair. I love Ellie's reaction when she walks in there. She's like, this guy's a genius. Yeah, it's pretty epic.
And I love when Joel asks Bill if he's a prepper, and Bill says, no, I'm a survivalist.
Yeah.
And I loved that.
Oh, it's so good. That's so good. All right, the next category is for grittiest moment. What is your choice?
I want to give this to Frank for attempting to play Long, Long Time on the piano. That was rough, man.
Oh, great choice. I love it. Great interpretation of the category. My choice for this category is when they're on their run and Bill's come back with a nasty cramp. That is rough.
Yeah, that is rough.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not what you want to be feeling at that point in time.
Coming back from a long run, cramps are screeching at you.
Right? Oof.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Okay. The third category is the Straight Shooter Award. What is your choice for this one?
I want to give it to Ellie when she says to Joel, don't blame me for something that isn't my fault.
Yeah. I love that moment because her ability to deconstruct and see the situation so clearly and then articulate it back to him is such a testament to her intelligence, Because it's obviously very hazy, but she's distilled down the truth of the matter and spit it right back at him. And I love that. And, his reaction is basically reveals that he knows that she's right. Okay, my choice for this category is right after Bill asks Frank when they first meet why it took him so long to answer the question if he was armed or not. Frank says, I thought about lying for some reason, but the reason didn't come.
Oh, it's so good. Oh, man. There are some really great lines between those two in this episode.
It's really great. It's such a phenomenal character revealing moment for Frank. This totally new person that we don't know. And we learn so much from just that one line and how he handles that situation.
Yeah.
So good.
I love that he's so bad at lying.
Yeah.
It's so endearing.
Yeah. It's really great. It's really great. And similarly, in that whole sequence, we learn so much. There's so much more complexity to Bill. For the most part, we've just seen him doing all his survivalist stuff. And we kind of have made conclusions, or I made conclusions about what kind of personality he was, very much a loner, very much a gruff type of personality. And the immediate warmth and tenderness and this beautiful meal that he makes for Frank, complete with the plate on a charter plate, beautiful china. There's just such a tenderness to him that was really sweet to see. So quickly, my understanding of who this character was shifted.
And I love when Bill says the line, this is not an Arby's. It's you're right, buddy. It's not an Arby's.
Well, doesn't he say
you have more?
This is not an Arby's. We don't. There's not free food here. And then Frank goes There was never free food at Arby's.
Right? Oh, it's just so good.
Oh, it's great.
It's a great line.
Yeah. Some good stuff. Okay, looking ahead, what are you excited to see? Although I feel like you've made it real clear what you want to see. Just,
Yeah, I want more emotional, heartfelt
I bet you do.
detours.
Mm.
Yes, I want to be all in my feels. No.
You want
Uh
the next couple episodes of an indie romance drama
yes.
series. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely what I came to this apocalyptic show for. Yeah, no, I'm very excited that they're back on their mission. I'm excited that they got their truck, so now they can make up some more miles. Hopefully, they have enough gas. Presumably, Bill had extra gas there so that they can fill up the truck when they need, because that's kind of an important component of a truck. So yeah, I'm interested to see what awaits them out west. I'm looking forward to them meeting maybe some shady
Yeah.
creatures,
I want to see that.
maybe some untrustworthy folks. That would be interesting. I'm I'm curious for this world to expand further, because we've only seen a handful of spots, and I'm ready to see more of this world and better understand what it looks like post the apocalypse.
Yeah, you're excited about that in the previous episode too. You're like, I just want
Mhm.
what do all these cities look like? Like
Yes.
what is the Midwest look like?
Yeah.
Yeah. Curious cat. Okay. I think I mentioned it earlier. My biggest thing that I'm now curious about is the gun in Ellie's backpack. It feels like the equivalent of the note from Mikey in I forget which season of The Bear. Was it season 2? Season 1? I don't remember. But there's a note that is discovered, a letter that is then hidden, and I don't think it surfaces up until the very last episode of that season, and its presence was felt. So I am just very curious to see how that shakes out with Gun and Ellie's backpack. So much like build up seems to be around it, and excited for this nice satisfying payoff. And then I'm wanting to see some unseemly, unsavory characters out here in the open city. I think that'd be really fun.
Yeah, we want some shifty
Yeah.
folks, some
Yeah.
people up to no good.
Mm-hmm.
We're ready.
Yeah. Some good stuff. I'm also curious to like see more fireflies. Like, what are the other ones like? We've only seen
Ooh,
one chapter, the Boston chapter.
this is
So
true.
that'd be cool.
This is true. And are is this like a franchise model, or where they have to be kind of like carbon copies of each other, or do they have a little bit more flexibility and creativity in how they move about their city and their context? Like what is this going to look like? Do they have brand integrity? Is this important? What's going on with the Fireflies?
Brand
'Cause,
integrity.
if you choose a name like the Fireflies,
They're like out
I don't know.
suing people for trademark rights.
I don't know, man. Is there like they want to make sure that they are all,
Mm.
in step with each other?
Right.
They have
I
to be
mean,
perfectly aligned,
we
even though
watched
they're like many cities away.
we watched the bike riders. We saw what happened when
We
like brand integrity's
did.
eroded with the other
Yeah.
chapters of I
I'm
forget what
just
they were
saying.
called. The biker gang, something or other.
I don't
But
remember. It was too long ago.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
let's learn from bike riders.
Let's learn from the bike riders. Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. We could also learn from the mob, because there are different chapters
There.
in different cities.
Yeah.
I'm just saying is all. They have their own little flavor.
Oh, yes,
You know?
indeed. And sometimes when one chapter gets a little unwieldy and a little
I'm just
ambitious and
saying.
tries to take over or has a
Yep.
difference in vision from the original,
Mhm.
what happens there? So we've got the network of the fungi, we've got the network
Yeah.
of the fireflies.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else have we
We
got?
got some different, mob chapters going on here. And then I guess that would just make Joel and Ellie maybe the government to set a RICO case to undo the mob. but maybe they don't want to undo the fireflies, so that's where the metaphor kind of falls apart. We need to figure out who Joel and Ellie are in this metaphor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, there's vast amounts of networks because even in
There
the
sure
even in
are.
this like totalitarian regime, like how it's run in Boston might look so different from. Are they kinder out in the Midwest in the QZs? Trying to fulfill the stereotype of the Midwesterners?
You know, it's that whole like smile to your face and then like stab you in the back kind of situation. It might be one of those. It depends on like where we are, you know, geographically. Some things kind of change.
We can get like the regional stereotypes of America through the QZs and The Last of Us, you know? Like the Southern QZ, they all got like
they're just all saying, "Oh, bless your heart."
Yes, oh bless your heart. Is it like shoot you in the face? Like
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a clue.
I don't know. We'll see. We're traveling west. We're going to Wyoming.
We are.
We're probably not going to go too far south if we're going from Boston to Wyoming.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I don't know. Maybe we'll take another detour. Maybe we'll have to go on a side quest that will take us off of our path.
Yep.
We'll find out.
Well, you know, the funny thing is that like for the sake of TV writing and stretching out this story, ideally we want Joel and Ellie to be taking their sweet time, or the writers want them to take their sweet time to get to Wyoming. Like ideally we never make it to Wyoming, you know, so that this journey they can continue to write story after story of like everyone that they encounter along the way. Once they get to Wyoming, we've got to go figure out what the next home mission is, which is kind of the problem that the bear falls into.
Yeah, exactly.
We open the restaurant. Now what do we do?
Thankfully, Boston and Wyoming are quite far away from each other, especially if you are traveling by car or by foot or by horse or, I don't know, any way you are traveling. It is a long journey. And if cities have been bombed, if, you know, highways are no longer being used and they're overgrown, those are going to be treacherous. So, like, this is not an easy journey, nor is it a quick journey. We are not journeying across the street or across town.
Yep.
Like, this is many, many, many miles of country that we're traversing. So it's going to take a while. You know, so we have lots of opportunities to meet colorful people, to go on little side quests. Like, I'm ready. We got time. We got country to travel. Let's go.
Poor Tommy. Tommy's just out there. We don't know if he's like captive by some folks. But he's just waiting. He's waiting patiently for his Prince Charming to come and save him.
What if Tommy is just out like living his life? You know? Well, what if he's just chilling and having a good time and doesn't want to be bothered by all this other crap? Like, what if he just put his phone on Do Not Disturb for a while, you know? He needs a moment. And then like Joel and everybody is freaking out and Tommy's like, chill, I'm fine.
Yeah. They get to Wyoming. There's just a letter that's like, hey, I'm actually in Hawaii.
Yeah.
So then we do the boat version of The Last of Us. That'll be season 15.
Amazing. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to the boat version of this. That would be really funny, though, if Tommy was just like, peace out. I needed some self-care. This is just all a little too much.
Right.
So I'm on a beach with a margarita.
Right. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Send a little postcard. Palm trees.
Yeah,
semis.
Exactly. Yeah.
Stuff.
Not a care in the world.
Yeah. All right. Well, this was our review discussion of The Last of Us. Episode 3. You can find it available on Max. Thank you for listening to today's episode of TV and Us. Our name sums it up. We're big fans of TV and the powerful ways we can connect with each other and the world around us. This podcast is about all of us and our shared stories. So everyone is welcome here, and we're so glad you spent time with us today as we continued our journey through The Last of Us Season 1. You can subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you tune to your favorite shows. Drop us a rating and review, letting us know your thoughts about episode 3. You can connect with us on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at TBNSPod, or you can email us at tbnspod@gmail.com. We will be back soon to discuss episode 4, and we're going to continue on our journey. Sarah's so excited for the mission, and we hope you have an amazing week. We'll talk again soon.